So we'll say a few words about the exponential growth of the internet in the past 20 years and the way in which it has transformed our lives. The first instance of the internet was in 1969. It was called the ARPANET, and it was a network of computers between 4 major US universities. The first ever networked message that was sent was the word login, and that happened in 1969. 3 years later, email and the @ symbol were introduced in Cambridge, Massachusetts, by a computer scientist called Ray Tomlinson. 1973 was a very important year because the TCP/IP protocol was established as a standard of communications between computers, and that standard still stands today. In 1976, the first royal to send ever an email message was Queen Elizabeth. And in 1982, the word internet was used for the very first time. In 1984, the domain name system, which is still in use today, was established. And we have, for the first time, as we know them today, web addresses that end up in .com, .org, and .education. And of course, they have multiplied over the years, depending on the growing needs of the industry, academia, and business. In 1989, Tim Berners-Lee, who is considered the founder of the internet, he was working at CERN at the time and developed a technique for distributing information over the internet, which this method he called the World Wide Web. And his computer, the one that he used at the time, was the first ever web server. During the London Olympic Games, he also used this computer in order to transmit signals in the stadium as a gesture of remembrance for the day that the internet was established. In 1990, there was the first attempt to index the internet. Basically, it's not exactly as search engines are today, but it was an archive of FTP sites, sites that contain files for everyone to download that could manage to belong in that network. And in 1993, we had Mosaic, which is the closest thing to a web browser as we know it today, but not exactly a web browser, but very broad, a very revolutionary way of looking at files over the web. Now, in 1994, a very famous American Greek came into the picture. That was the legendary, for us computer scientists, Michael Dertouzos. Michael Dertouzos was the director of the computer science lab in the MIT, the best technology university in the world, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And he convinced Tim Berners-Lee to join him in establishing the World Wide Web Consortium. This was an association that took place, and the offices were in the campus of MIT, and ensured that for then and in the future, the World Wide Web would adhere to certain standards as to prolong its existence, maintain its ethical code, and transform its future. When we reach 1996, there are already 45 million people around the globe that use the internet. And in 1998, Google opened its first office. From the very beginning that Google set up its first engines, it was not the first engine, there were many before it, like Yahoo, that most of you will know, but it was by far the best in terms of relevancy of results. Google used proprietary technologies that were far more advanced than the age that they were built, and they are still a well-kept secret until now. Actually, it's a much more valuable secret than the recipe of Coca-Cola nowadays in commercial terms. In 1999, most of you would have heard of Napster and the upset that it created to the music world. And Napster was a file-sharing application, and especially music-sharing application, where people around the world would be exchanging music tracks, which was, of course, illegal, and that's why it was shut down many years after. But at the time, it was an extremely exciting venture. At 1999, we had 150 million internet users around the globe. In 2001, Wikipedia was launched, the free internet encyclopedia, which was based on contributions from the users, and anyone could edit it. Anyone, until things got very complicated, and most people can edit part of Wikipedia nowadays. At the same year, Apple launched the iPod, a revolutionary device of portable consumer electronics that was extremely popular, which was succeeded by many devices by the company. In 2002, we reached 544 million internet users, and in 2003, it's the age we enter the social media era, and we have iTunes, MySpace, LinkedIn, Skype, WordPress being launched. And in the following year, we have Facebook, Flickr, Vimeo, and a very beloved web browser, Mozilla Firefox. In 2005, YouTube was launched, and the worldwide internet users exceeded 1 billion. As you can see, the exponential growth of internet users is quite significant, and it will continue to be like this for the years to come. In 2006, Twitter was launched, and at the time there were 92 million websites online. In 2007, Apple launched the hugely successful iPhone, and the BBC launched the iPlayer. In 2008, Microsoft offered to buy Yahoo, which was a very large-scale business deal at the time. And US courts ordered the disabling of WikiLeaks, which was a sign that the internet wasn't becoming that free anymore. And also, it has been established that Facebook was the world's most popular social network. In 2010, Instagram and Pinterest are launched, as well as the iPad. And in 2011, the royal wedding was the biggest internet event ever, in terms of live streaming, in terms of posting it in social media. The success it had on the internet was unprecedented through every single country of the world. And we reach today, of course there are many events in between, but that would require several hours to go through. But we are at a point in time where there are 1 billion websites in existence, 3 billion internet users, 101 billion emails are sent every single day, 2.5 billion Google searches are done per day, 4 billion video views are on YouTube, there are 1.4 billion Facebook active users and many more inactive users, and 302 million Twitter users. We see that the internet, in such a short period of time, has flooded our lives with data, with information, with ways to communicate, with ways to get our ideas out there, to consume more. And that, of course, has certain benefits, but certain downfalls as well. No matter how hard the legal professionals try, it's really, really hard to regulate the internet. especially since it falls into different categories of international law. And each day there are more and more cases that are being trialed where breaking ground is being opened up. So let's now say, what is our online reputation? Our online reputation basically is whatever Google displays when one searches our name, our company name, or every single term that is of our interests. Also, our online reputation is what people say about us in the social media. Also, anything that is published about us on mainstream press, which is very, very likely to come up on the top of the search engine results due to its popularity. And it's true that Google is has an incredibly smart and very efficient algorithm, and it's really, really hard to trick. So results that come up on the top are usually there for a very good reason, and a very objective reason. Also, our online reputation depends on reviews for our brand, for our business, for our services, for our work, absolutely everything. Also, public records connecting to us or our business. For example, many of you would have Googled yourselves for the first time and seen that although you didn't do anything to create an entry of your name in the web, there was already one. Probably because you forgot to tick the box on the electoral roll that allowed the government to share your information with indexing sites. So many people come into the realization that without doing anything, they may find on the first page of Google results their address and phone number. And also, it's all photos or videos tagged with your name. Now, one would say, who cares about your online reputation? And the answer is absolutely everyone you know. Because the truth is that nowadays, once you come into contact with an individual, whether you see a personality on TV or have any interaction with a person that you're interested in or a company, the most likely thing to do is to Google them. So you could be a client that has interest in you, business partners, investors, journalists, stockholders, prospective employers. We've heard too many stories about how candidates were rejected from getting a job, although they had the typical qualifications, but something from their past haunted them on the web, especially when one of their friends found it funny to place it on a blog for the world to see. Your personal contacts and friends, your co-workers, marketers, and the general public. You never know who is looking for you at the internet, and it's instant and international. And there is one more thing about the internet, is that once something is out, it can never, ever be practically taken out. Even if the website that holds the information is taken down, even if the search engines remove the association, technically, once you upload a file on the web or a web page or absolutely anything, it makes thousands of copies to different computers around the world without you having to do anything. So what goes down may re-emerge years later. So why is it important to manage it? As we said, it's instant and international. Within seconds, you could be in a very bad position. People that thought that social media was something of a means of communication between them and their friends were very wrong, because even if they tweeted something they wished they never did, and they deleted it 10 seconds later, depending on their popularity, they could find hundreds of screenshots being taken in the meantime and reproduced in several channels. So once it's out there, it's out there. It just depends on your luck on where it will end up. Also, it reaches a potentially enormous audience, and that is potentially 3 billion people. which is bound to increase in the coming 5 years, especially with efforts to get every single corner of the Earth networked. And it's estimated that in about 10 years, more areas will have internet access than access to fresh water. If you don't manage your online reputation, then inadvertently someone else will do it for you, which means not necessarily someone that does not have your best interests at mind, but maybe a company that indexes your data, and maybe things are there that you don't want them to be, because you value your privacy. But nowadays, in order to protect your privacy, you must specifically ask for it. You must opt out and not opt in for your information to be publicly available. And also, you need to manage it because it's far easier to protect it than to fix a potentially nasty situation. Now, the search engines. The search engines, specifically Google, the major search engine, has all the power in the world. Most people will search through Google, and the results that come on the top of the search engines are the ones that people are going to see, the ones that people are going to follow. There is a huge difference in commercial terms for someone appearing on the first result of the first page in a particular popular Google result than appearing anywhere on the second page. In terms of sales, for certain terms, it could mean hundreds of millions of pounds a difference in revenue. Now, for any given search term around the world, for all users, all searches worldwide, 50% of the users click only on the first two results of the first page. 91.7% of the users do not click anything apart from the first page. Now, you may say, I have clicked several times to go and check something on the second or the third page of Google results. You may have, but if you take that as a percentage out of all the time that you have searched the internet, you will see that it's only 1% or less of the times that you have done meticulous research in a particular term. And 96.5% of users do not click past the second page of results. Which means what? It means that our online reputation is basically what appears on the first two pages of Google. If it's there, people are most likely to see it. And it's also about psychology. If you search for a particular personality and you don't see anything that attracts in particular your interest in the first two pages, you're unlikely to move on. 25% of the individuals and brands who appear online have no positive content for them on the first page of results. That's not necessary that they have a negative content on the first page of Google results, but for certain professions, for certain people that are out there, or all of us, having no Google results is like not having an identity. Everybody expects you to appear somewhere on the internet. If you don't, they think that something's wrong. And also 15% of them have at least one negative result on the first page. A few statistics about social media. 72% of all internet users are very active on social media. As we can see in the pie chart, the time spent online worldwide, 42% is viewing content, web pages, 22% of the time people go onto social networking sites, and 36% of the time they email, they shop, or anything else. Also, there is another interesting statistic that users that follow brands on social media increased by 106% in the last 2 years. And they are going to increase even more since social media become more and more interactive for the public, and more useful information are being fed to them more now than ever before. And also, 71% of social media participants say that they are more likely to buy a product or a service from a brand they follow on social media rather than not. "92% of consumers trust opinions posted online by other consumers." Actually, sometimes people trust more the opinions of other reviewers, especially on sites like Amazon, than they trust the opinion of their friends and family in regards to purchasing a particular product or service. 87% of the users believe that the CEO's reputation in a company is a very important part of a company's reputation, whether that company has 1 or 1 million employees. 63% of a company's market value is attributed to its reputation, because once the reputation is gone, then people don't trust it. They don't want to go near it. They just steer away as quickly as they can. And I have several examples to give you later about that. 94% of brands with the highest social media activity increased revenue by as much as 19%. People like to see companies active on social media. It's something like an intense social interaction. They like to see that the company is alive, they contribute to their public, they care, they respond. Hence, they increase their sales. And above all, they are current. People remember the latest thing. They don't remember necessarily the best thing that they have encountered in terms of a service, but the latest. And that's why the advertising industry is such a successful industry throughout the years. 94% of clicked search results are organic, they're not paid. Although non-organic results that appear at the top of Google searches are very popular, and they do drive a revenue towards the company that pay a high percentage of their click-throughs to Google. People nowadays are aware. People nowadays know the difference between paid and organic results, and they know that organic results in Google, the ones that appear below the 3rd or 4th result and appear in different colors, are the ones that are true, and they are not sponsored. As more people know, more people prefer to use this information. And when deciding which businesses to go to, customers base their choices on text reviews, 44%, on the business ratings, 26%, 17% on the quantity of reviews, and 14% on reviews from friends and family. Now, in managing our online reputation, there are certain challenges. One is there are false information, whether a directory service has put your information wrongly, or you are mistaken for someone that has committed a serious crime, which happens a lot. Also, there are the doppelgangers, which is a German word which tries to be as close to an identical twin. There are many people that have identical twins on the internet that mirror their profiles, mirror their behaviors in order to attract attention, sometimes steal clients or whatever they wish. And there are many times that the rightful owners of the profiles are not aware of this situation for many months or even years. There are the squatted usernames. Squatted means stolen. Someone goes and registers on a social media site a username that directly relates to your name, and then it's a long process to prove that you're not that person, or someone else is using your name to serve a particular purpose. The same goes for squatted domain names. Someone goes and registers a domain name that is spelled exactly like your name and puts defamatory material or material that you would never want to be associated with, which is a not very easy process to overcome in the European Union. In the US it has been simplified because the domain name registrars have been given court powers so they can take down squatted domains quite quickly. But sometimes all it takes is a few days for your reputation to go really, really bad, because sometimes there is a particular portion of the audience that will look at your profile today because you were on TV, because you participated somewhere, and on that date, if someone damages your reputation, you don't need much more for a quite difficult situation ahead. Also, there are negative comments that can be placed absolutely everywhere. This is a very popular task that competitors do, especially on sites that review hotels, vacations. There is a lot of defamation going on there, and it's really difficult for people to steer away from it. There are hacked profiles. People don't use their social media accounts for very long, or place ridiculously simple passwords, and their automatic robot software that run automatically from big servers around the world that automatically crack every single password on social media profiles, if they can, and post comments on there that you would not be proud of. There are complaint sites. Some of them in the past were very, very abusive to some users. I remember one that was called solicitorfromhell.com. Now this website posted legal firm profiles with warnings with big red letters like eviction letters that these people are fraudsters, they should be shut down, they would write legal documents, fake legal documents against them. And of course, since this site was very popular, it would come on the top of the search results when someone would search for this site, for this firm's name or the solicitor's name. And it was disastrous for the clientele of the legal firm. They tried repeatedly to take it down with legal means, but the limited means at the time and legal precedents in terms of defaming sites was limited. It took about 7 years for them to take it down. How they managed to get away for such a long time was the fact that they were saying that they represented the freedom of speech. And there were people that genuinely complained to them in terms of the level of service of these legal firms, and they wanted to put a voice to the people. But the trick was that they asked each and every company the chance to remove it if they paid them £10,000 each. And the reason for that, they claimed, was to send in their experts in order to check whether all the factors that led to the initial complaints were now gone. This blackmail continues in other forms, not so prominently in websites that target specific professional groups, but it does nowadays in terms of social media defamation. It's quite different, but very effective at times as well. Personal scandals, that's another one. Directory information, fake profiles, especially if you're someone that is known to a certain segment of the public. It's quite of a status quo that you should have at least 5 or 10 fake profiles following you. Trademark infringement, competitor attacks, hate sites, I hate Coca-Cola.com, mistaken identity, and Google suggestions. You know what Google suggestions is? At the very bottom of the first page of Google results, there are some two-worded phrases that are the suggestions of Google. That is, words that could be associated with your initial search term. So let's say that it's John, and you search for John, and you see the first results for John, and at the bottom you see John fraud. These two words combined together. You look through the different pages of Google, but you see no association between the name John and the word fraud, and you're wondering why that is. That is because Google ranks those particular results based on the volume of search. So there are different groups around the world nowadays. One would call them criminal groups that are hired to do professional defamation. And that would be to search by the thousands around the world through automated bots for a particular combination of words, and in a matter of days, this combination of words shows up in suggestions by Google under your name, which sometimes people may not find a particular association between yourself and that word in an article or in the press, but they will certainly form a bad impression, or they'll think that something was there and was removed. So let's talk a little bit about what each of us should do or could do in order to protect their online reputation and online identity. First of all, on a regular basis, one should monitor mentions of your name and brand. This can be done either manually, or one could set up Google Alerts or several other free tools that are out there that will send you an email each time your name is mentioned anywhere on the web, in pages and Google results from page 1 to page 10. You should register all relevant to your name and brand domain names, and put your domain name with a dash or with a dot, or put the second company name in front of the first one to avoid others registering those domain names for you and managing to put defamatory content on there, and until the time you take it out of there, it's too late for several reasons. Because people like gossip, they like the negative side of things, and they are bound to click more on those than they would on any legitimate result. Sometimes I've seen cases of people that have been defamed, either from major publications or anyone that is doing it for their own purposes. And they really don't know what to do. You should build a relationship with your online community, and that's the best thing to do, and it takes time to do so. You should provide quality content for your friends in social media, for your viewers to view, and engage on more than one social media profiles. That will help in you establishing your brand followers, your brand bodyguards, protectors. The people that when someone tries to defame you on the social media will go in front of them and say what you're saying is not right. And that will look very good to people that were trying to form a negative opinion about you. You must be accessible, especially for businesses. Many reputation problems start because people could not find you, or they were redirected to a call center in India and they had to wait for 30 days for a simple response. You should identify your name and brand defenders, the people that will defend you in case someone wants to harm you online. And this would be the regular engager profiles on Facebook, the people who retweet and like what you say on Twitter and refer to your posts. Also, you could try to turn negative when there is into positive. You can respond that you're looking into a situation, take it offline, try to take some of the heat off the current situation, get a client to comment on your prompt action once they are satisfied. It's important to bring closure in any dispute on the internet and not try to defend things that are not easily defendable. You can ask to remove untrue negative comments by asking the moderator of a particular web page or social media to flag content down, provided that you have proof of it being inaccurate or defamatory. However, if you start writing directly to the person who's trying to abuse you and trying to say negative things about them, if they are not accurate, you could end up in much bigger trouble than initially. It's important to place good quality content on social network sites, so people like you, follow you, have you in their minds. And also that would help very much in ranking your social media profiles high on the Google results. You should respond to constructive criticism and reasonable complaints, and thank everyone for the feedback. Of course, sometimes that is not possible, but one can always try. And also have an online contingency plan and set up social media crisis policy on how to engage dissatisfied customers. Or we always know when things can relatively go bad. We know, for example, that if we have an upcoming legal case that would have interest from the media and the public, we should prepare. We should make sure that our social media profiles are up to date. That would help when people comment on you. What would come on top would be content that you control, content that you put out, and not content that someone else writes about you. And it's very important to understand the psychology of the crowd. Let's say we have a particular piece of information that a man stole a certain sum from a bank. The same piece of information may appear on every single major media site or newspaper, and they may write the absolute identical thing. But if one of these results appears once, if it appears more than 4 or 5 times in the first 10 results of the first page, people will say he definitely did it. If it appears in 2 results, they will not be so sure. If it doesn't appear anywhere on the first page and appears at the bottom of the second page, they'll say they hate him because he is successful. And that is what it's all about. It's about the image you present to the public. And some people that you would expect, if you do some research, that you would expect they would have very negative online reputation because the line of business they're in, you would be very, very surprised that they have a perfect record online because they take a particular care of things. Because when things go out of hand online, they can get momentum very, very quickly. Within 24 hours, you could be in a situation that will take you up to 2 years to remedy. What not to do? You should not ever use forceful or angry language. That's what they want. If you need to speak in that manner because you absolutely have to and the other person asks for it, you must do it in a private way so that it cannot be spread or shared. You should also always handle issues offline, via the phone or a letter or email. It's much safer. Do not assume always that negative comments are always bad, because your brand defenders, the ones that you nourished earlier by putting nice posts to them on social media or caring about their birthdays on a yearly basis, they will come forward and protect you when that time comes. And do not ever threaten legal action unless you have a very, very good legal team and a lot of money, because you could have a lot of liability issues. Always deal with every dispute offline. And also litigation turns to make people very angry, and they will perform much worse acts than they would in the beginning. And do not ever, ever post fake reviews, because, as we said before, Google is very, very smart. And you could suffer from the Google penalty or the Google dump, which means that your websites, the ones that you want to appear on the first page, within a few hours they can go from number 1 position in the search engine results to number 999, where nobody would ever see them, and they could stay there for up to 6 months. And you would have to do a series of applications in order to take them back up. So as an individual or a business owner or a brand, where should you get involved? You should first get involved where it's easy to get involved, and that is for professionals to LinkedIn or Plexo. For personal users, you could use Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. Even if you don't use the social media, always register your usernames with them before someone else does. For education, if you want to find your ex-classmates, you can go to Classmates or Reunion, which are quite popular sites here in the US. For corporate people, you could go for Business Week and Crunchbase. For review sites, the Yellow Pages and Amazon. For media sites, Flickr, YouTube. Industry-specific blogs, forums, local social networks, forums and groups. If you do all this, and you're not someone that is very recognizable to the public, or have someone that is very determined to defame you, then you're safe. Because all of these sites, the profiling needs, and keeping them updated on a not very regular but seldom basis, would guarantee you that you have your first 2 pages of Google results covered. Now, before I entered the online reputation management business, I was approached first, and the idea came from a UK politician that had a tremendous career for the past 50 years of his life as a businessman, as a member of a party, as a philanthropist. And after his wife passed away, 6 years after, he established a relationship with a younger woman. And that was portrayed negatively in newspapers such as the Mail and Sun and other publications, and led to him overnight being from a hugely successful businessman, a very respectful politician, to being someone that all he did during his existence on this earth is establish the relationship with that lady, and nobody else would see anything else. Because once the Mail writes something about it, there are about 10 other media sites that will immediately make an exact copy. The Sun, Metro, hundreds of blogs that are very willing, because they're starving for content, to make an exact copy of it. So anything positive will be long gone before you manage to push it back. And that certain individual, when he came to me, he said, "Can you do anything about it?" At the moment, there wasn't much going on here in the UK, but it was something very popular in the US. Because the Americans know about image making, they know how important it is. And what he did at the time was what everyone did at that time, and that was hire a legal professional to help him take down the defamatory content. But it's rarely effective nowadays when we're talking online, because even if you manage to take down a particular website, or 2 or 10, someone can register in offshore companies hundreds of domain names and write exactly the same thing, populating the search engines and creating a never-ending loop. Also, if you go the legal route, it may have the opposite effect. Well, from my experience, it will certainly have a negative effect, as many people will get aggravated, and the person that writes the defamatory content will get a lot of supporters this way. It's very limited, there is very limited protection to certain resources, and it's a very stressful process to go through the legal route, and not an easy one, and a very costly one. And the best example for that is what is known as a proper term, the Barbara Streisand effect. If you look at it in Wikipedia, you'll see all about it. So Barbara Streisand was all relaxed in her Malibu villa. Life was good. It was her private villa. She didn't want any paparazzi, any reporters going anywhere near it. She was living her personal life there. She had given the message out that she is to be left alone, and as some of us know, there is a secret code of communication between celebrities and the media. So nobody was really bothered about it. But then a freelance paparazzi, out of the blue, found himself in a hill opposite her villa and managed to take a few pictures of the exterior of the house, her pool and some movement inside the house. And he tried to sell these pictures, as he normally does, to certain publications at the time in the US. Most of them rejected the pictures because they didn't find much value to it. They didn't find much sale value to it, and a few of them bought the pictures, but for $50 each, or a very low value in order to keep them in case they need them in the future. And they did need them in the future, because this certain reporter, photographer, paparazzi went onto his blog. His blog was popular, but nowhere near as popular as the name of Barbara Streisand. And he posted the pictures there. And when you search for Barbara Streisand's name, these pictures in his blog appeared on the 14th page of Google results. And a few weeks later, after he posted those pictures, one of her advisors goes to her and says, there is a major leak, it's a catastrophe, the pictures are out, we must take them down immediately. And she calls her solicitors and says, get a super injunction, get them out of there, get a court order so the website is down tomorrow. And as instructed, the solicitor did, and the website was down. But what he also did is inform the global paparazzi community that this was something that actually mattered to her. No one from the wider public ever knew that a few pictures from the outside of her villa would be so important to her. So it was 48 hours before 200,000 web pages had these pictures. And it was impossible for any professional or anyone in PR, technology, or lawyer to take them all down. So that's an example of how sometimes the legal route, or most of the time, can have a negative effect on the internet. And also there is the PR route. The PR route says, the Mail wrote something negative about you, don't worry. We'll do a very nice interview about you in the Sun, It will be great. It will be 2 pages. Your picture will be in the middle. And it will say how the harsh competitors or the people that don't appreciate your value are trying to take you down. And you are the best and you are above all this. And it's really them who are the bad guys. Which sometimes works, but when we're talking online, nobody in the PR industry can guarantee you, unless they have solid technologists there or experts, that the positive news that they place will be placed above the negative ones, or that they cannot guarantee you, or it will cost a tremendous amount to create hundreds of articles in order to cover up what the defamation has done before. So really, it is a route, but not the preferable one. So what is our approach? Our approach is the technology approach, which says that no matter what happens, we will push down the negative results, because as we said, your online reputation is the first 2 pages of Google results. Even if some people manage to go to the 3rd page and look at the defamatory content or anything that you don't want to be there, defamatory or not, they're not going to pay so much attention to it because it's not right in front of them. So we continuously monitor the online mentions everywhere. We establish the ideal online image for our clients, which is a process that combines PR and technology. In terms of the technology side, we have the power of the numbers. We know who gets onto your website, why, when, how, and we form opinions for that. We know that if a politician goes in the morning and talks about legislation about education, it will have a different effect to his success rather than posting it in the evening. So it's a little bit like manipulation of the data we have, but it's extremely effective. So one can establish their ideal online image. So, for example, a business person may wish to show himself as the best in one particular industry, or a business person that has gone through the House of Lords, they have done everything they wanted in life, but now, after they have achieved everything, they want to show the world that they are philanthropists. So they want everyone that Googles them to get that idea, and we can make that happen. Because it's all about the perception to the public when one Googles your name. So we can establish the ideal online image for you, exactly as you want it. You can become whoever you want to be on the web, no matter what other people want you to be. Sometimes this can be extremely difficult. Sometimes it can take months and years for us to achieve that. But it's really worth it. I'm sorry, we're having a microphone day. Okay. Now, we gain gradual control of all the web resources that belong to you, and it's important for you to have ownership of as many web resources as you can, as we explained previously. Have all your social media profiles registered to you, your domain names, absolutely everything that you can think of that you wouldn't like anyone else to use on your behalf. We gain knowledge by gathering statistical data from the early stages of our campaign, and we report regularly on the progress we make, because building an online reputation is a very interactive process. It's not a linear process, because people behave in different ways once you put something out there, and you judge what to put next based on their reaction. And so we handle each and every campaign on a custom-made manner, because that's the only way it could happen. and no two situations are ever the same. So as part of our campaign, we developed search engine optimized web pages. That means that we put certain elements in the codes of web pages so they go high on search engine results. They rank on the first and second pages of Google. They try to follow as many guidelines as Google dictates in order for ethical manipulation of search engine rankings, and there are quite a lot of rules, about 200 of them. We create and handle social media profiles, and we use proprietary algorithms in order to make sure that the results that we want for you to be out there are. It can take time, but the results are there to last. Which means that, let's say that you build a strong online profile for you. You register all your social media, you're very active, you don't have anything major against you like a newspaper chasing you. The next time someone writes something about you that you don't want it to be there, it will not rank in the first page of Google results or the second. It will go below. And it will be easier for you to handle it. And it will not populate absolutely everything related to your name in the search engine results. It's always best to be proactive rather than try to remedy a situation that it's difficult to fix. And we gain valuable insights on how to shift the direction of our campaign if needed, because we do our online PR effort by understanding the public, understanding what they want, understanding what is the perception of each individual and brand is to the outside world, and we make the necessary adjustments in order to achieve the desired results, which always happens. Right. And the last thing I'm going to talk about before we go into questions, which I very much encourage you to make, is what you might have heard of the right to be forgotten. The right to be forgotten is a legislation that was passed by the European Court of Justice last May, and it said that Google must remove links to websites that include content that is inadequate, irrelevant, or no longer relevant. What does this mean? Nobody knows. There are interpretations, and the decisions are based on a group of lawyers that are based in Germany, most of them in Berlin, which are hired by Google to do a very difficult job to understand which results can be considered as inadequate or irrelevant. So far, 260,000 links have been removed from search results. But really, it's quite pointless. Because in legislation purposes, the only thing that the European Court of Justice has managed to do is manage to restrict those results from country-level domain names of the European Union, which means that if you search for your name in google.co.uk, the defamatory result may not appear, but if you later go to google.com and search for the same term, it will appear there, because it does not apply to US jurisdiction. Most people know that, of course, and once they see the notification on the first page of Google results that one result has been removed due to this legislation, they immediately go to google.com and see what they're hiding, which is even worse. There are many people that oppose this decision by the European Union. It's unlikely that it will be enforced around the world, because the US has quite strict freedom of speech legislation in order for this to be enforced. The decisions can be very subjective. For example, if you're a celebrity there is no way that they're going to take down results on your name, no matter what you did or if it's irrelevant or not. If you have committed a major fraud or crime, it's very likely that they will never remove the results. But then again, there have been some results that have been removed that they shouldn't. And it's true that putting a team of lawyers, no matter how good they are, to judge on very limited guidelines what is to stay and what is to go, is a very, very difficult job. Now, there have been many suggestions, especially from the founder of Wikipedia, Jimmy Wales, who is very much against this legislation because many Wikipedia pages have had to be excluded from the search engine results, which negates the very foundation of why Wikipedia was created. And they suggest that also a team of philosophers, analysts, and other social scientists are involved in the decision making. But basically they want for this new legislation to disappear. We are to see what will happen in the future. And I wouldn't like to keep you too long. I would like to thank you all for coming, and thank you for listening, and thank again the Hellenic Centre for the support and the hospitality. Thank you very much. Any questions?